coming up on Wrestling Life.
He's a presence. I just asked him, I was like, what would you like to do? And he was like, it's up to you guys. So I was just like, let's get in and let's just roll about for a bit. And, you know, it was a surreal experience, like standing there and he is standing the opposite and I'm about to lock up with him. I played the part of Seth Rollins, Mark was Cody, and Wolfie was Roman Reigns. And it was funny, like every so often, Rock would be walking around and Wolfie would just fling the one up going, you're doing well, cousin. Some of the things that we had maybe said for The Rock had made its way into the match. So that was really fun to see. Watching the match as well, like, you know, you got a little bit of buzz, like we felt like producers watching it.
This is Wrestling Life with Ben Veal, the show that celebrates wrestling's past, present, and future with real talk from real talent.
Joining me on Wrestling Life today is none other than the leader of Gallus, Glasgow's very own Joe Coffey. Fresh off his recent release from WWE, Joe joins me to talk about his incredible career to date and what's next. Joe, welcome to the show. How are you today, my friend?
I'm good. Thank you very much for having me. It's very much appreciated.
Oh, absolute pleasure. And yeah, I mean, I say we're recording this a couple of months after the big news. So May 2nd, 2025, all three members of Gallus, yourself, your brother Mark and Wolfgang are released by WWE. I'm sure that day is still incredibly fresh and raw in your memory, but if you can, take me back to how you received the news, what that day was like for you and how you're feeling a couple of months on.
Yeah, well, we were in the PC that day. They do like a thing called PC Live for some of the less experienced talent to get reps in. So we went in, it was good day, and then myself and Mark went to the gym, you know, trained for like 3 or 4 hours. And, you know, I think when those days come, it's always in the back of your mind. Like I think even if I had a title, you know, was in a program or something, I'd still be thinking in the back of your mind. I think that's it's that pro wrestling mentality sometimes where you're like, oh, it's just all this could go. So it got to about 5:30 and I looked at the clock and I was on the Stairmaster and I was on the 55th minute and I was thinking, nah, surely not. Like, I think we're okay. 60 minutes finishes, presses the stop button, Connecticut calling. You've got to laugh about it. Like
203 number, yeah.
Yeah, the 203 number popped up and I just went, oh. And I just picked the phone up and I went, hello? And they're like, hi, Joe, this is... And I went, nah, it's all right, you don't need to say it. I know what this is about. See you later. It just kind of was very short with it because I knew it's on to the next thing, because in this business, I don't wait about. And I just knew, oh, well, that's happened. I'm going to have to deal with this and the multitude of problems that comes with that after it. So I finished up and Joey Gonzalez, one of the referees, was in the gym as well. And I went, I've just been released, mate. And I'm really good friends with him. And I just stormed out the gym. Mark was in his car and he's just finished and he was just on his phone, like just messing about. I just went, well, I've just been released. So good luck. You'll either be getting a call or you're going to go on and make it. I just drove up the road and I'll be honest, I was pretty angry that day. Disappointed and angry. I just feel as if we have a lot to offer and we had given a lot. I've said it, like, I don't know if it's a case of being too professional because we never complained, always done our job, always done what was asked of us, always helped with the younger talent, training some of them on the job, I feel, on live television. But that is just the nature of the business sometimes. And, you know, you just have to, you know, I'm a massive Oasis fan, especially in the current climate as well. You've got to roll with it. Like, really, you just got to get on with it. It's not the first step.
Don't look back in anger.
Don't look back. You've got to slide away, right?
There's no Oasis song for every feeling, isn't there?
Yeah. you've just got to move on. It's just more the process that has came after that that's been difficult. Like, it's almost like I need to exercise the demons of what's happened recently, but I can't. It's like I'm being haunted a little bit just because I haven't been able to get back in a wrestling ring, and this is probably the longest I have not worked and wrestled in pro wrestling in 16 years, and since I was 16, like in a job of any capacity. Even when I was at school, I had a job because I believe the value in work ethic. Like my dad and my mum and dad instilled that in me from like a young age. So it's very frustrating that way, because once the contract goes, your visa goes with that as an international talent. So it's been difficult. And we worked with an agency to acquire a visa. It's just taken a little bit longer than it should have. So it's kind of frustrating that way. But equally, I'm channeling all my energy into different outlets. Just now, like my training, I'll be making sure there's another different version of me that you'll see in a pro wrestling ring. The best conditioned, the biggest I've been. And then, like, I've boxed for a long time as well, so been channeling a lot of energy into that. And I'll go out on a limb and say I'm the best pro wrestling striker on the planet today. And if you don't agree with that, then there's a ring. You can fight me in that. That is not a problem.
Don't look at me. I'm not disagreeing with you. There you are.
It's just so that has been more of a difficult process and a strain as well.
It's interesting because I had Steph DeLander on the show a few weeks ago. She was talking about after her NXT release, obviously as an international talent, everything that goes with the visa process, and it's one of those things you don't think about as a fan, but actually how your life is completely. You've relocated to the other side of the world. You're there in Orlando right now. Like your life is in the US now, and this news obviously comes out of the blue, as it does for so many talents post WrestleMania season. Sadly, this is something we have seen play out for decades now, and no doubt will continue to see. You have to now try and work out where the next step is, don't you? And that's challenging.
Yeah, of course. And like Steph is a perfect example of how to go make yourself a star, and build your brand up again. And again, it's just like, I'm so pleased for her because she's went out and absolutely smashed it. I want to do something similar. I want to follow in, like, you look at Steph and look at people like Matt Cardona, for example, like, has grasped independent life by the balls and is making it his own. And I'm sure at some stage a major company will take a look at that. They have to, and go, well, how can we not? There's this noise happening. We want a part of that. And of
course, with Gallus, I mean, there's such great chemistry between the three of you as well. Like, whether or not you kind of go out as you go off as Joe Coffey, or whether there's something as the three of you, but there's a brilliant chemistry of you as a faction.
Yeah, and I think it's time that we can go and grow and develop different parts of our character. I think one of my, disappointing, frustrations is we didn't actually get a chance to show a totally different side of us. Towards the end of our time there, we done Evolve for WWE just because they needed experience. And we'd ask, can we be baby faces? Because we're actually very comfortable in that role as well. We're comfortable in being a villain, but I spent the majority of my career as a babyface before I got to WWE. That is actually when I really became a villain. And before that, slightly in ICW, where they waited too long to put the title on me and the crowd were starting to turn. And I remember on the day, I think it was a Barrowland show, and I was against Trent Seven. And this is an important part of pro wrestling, is listening to the crowd, which sometimes I think is now lost in translation, is listening to the crowd. And I was like, they're not going to buy me winning this as a babyface. So as I won it, I turned heel straight away, because you have to listen to the crowd. So one of the disappointing things was that we didn't get a run as a babyface, because I felt we had a lot to offer that way, and we could bring something different and connect to the crowd differently, especially we'd been off TV since December. And I felt as if it was a perfect time for us to come back as baby faces. But the whole time in NXT was brilliant. It was just, personally felt a little bit frustrated because I never got to cement myself in what I can do singles. Like Mark and Wolfie had a great tag team title run, and I felt as if I was the facilitator. Like I was the person who would maybe put the storyline in motion. Like when they had a program with the D'Angelo family, I'd done some really good vignettes where it was like I was in the jail and I was visiting and stuff, and I really enjoyed that because it gave me a chance to like properly act and show like a devious side of the character. So that was really fun and that was good, but I just wish I'd got a chance to properly, because before we came together as Gallus, we all came differently. Wolfie was, predominantly a singles wrestler. So was I. Mark was in one of the greatest tag teams I've ever seen in Polo Promotions. And then we all kind of came together and made it work. But I was in main events all over Europe as like a heavyweight attraction, and I was just disappointed I didn't get a chance to do that. But that's okay. I'll go do it elsewhere, and maybe one day you'll see that.
Yeah, and I mean, it's interesting because, of course, you've only got to go back to, January 2018 and take over Blackpool. And obviously the absolute banger you had with, well, an opponent you know very well from your ICW days in the Bruiserweight, Pete Dunne. I mean, that was WWE, you showing WWE that you can very much carry the main event, and you two well and truly did. Take me back to that night and what that was like for you.
It was really exciting. And being in Blackpool as well, I had missed out on being in the inaugural WWE UK tournament because I was doing the World of Sport thing. And I'm not going to lie, when I saw, like, I always wanted to do the WWE, but unfortunately the World of Sport thing came first. And if I'd have known that was an option, I would have probably taken it. But again, that's just one of those things. We've got a saying in Scotland, what's for you won't go by you. So I was very excited to be there that night. Definitely slightly nervous because it was a big event and just wanted to perform. And I think we ended up going 40 minutes, which for WWE is brilliant because you don't really get that time. And I felt as if we told a very good story, and it was a very, very physical encounter. I remember the next day we had TV tapings for NXT UK, and I was very beat up. Like myself and Pete had fallen off the top rope twice, which added to the drama.
Yeah,
it was just, I was like, I'm very physically fit and very well conditioned, but I was out on my feet towards the last couple of minutes. I've got no problem in saying that. Fatigue makes the cowards of most of us, but I just couldn't hold on, and I was so banged up the next day. And then I worked Ashton Smith, and I think it was her first time as a singles, and I was just like, I'm really sorry, mate. I'm very banged up. I will be giving it my all. And to be fair, it was great. And Ashton's a really good job of hiding how beat up I was. But Pete is just the consummate professional as well, and always very happy to see how Pete's doing because I think he's incredible. And I just really hope to see him and Tyler, together doing something again. I would love to see them actually against each other again, because that match they had in I can't remember where it was, but it was one of the NXT PLEs.
I know exactly.
It incredible. Yeah, it won match of the year, and it was incredible. I remember I was actually out that night. I think I'd done a show down in Carlisle. I think it was myself, Mark, Jackie, and Kenny Williams maybe we were out, or something. I just remember that was more like, I remember watching it in a bar and I was like, that was absolutely incredible.
Yeah, I've shown it to people who don't even watch wrestling and said, this is why I watch wrestling. Like, this is as good as it gets. And of course, in that match as well, that was the debut in WWE of Walter. That was his first big night on the job, punting you in the head, throwing you out of the ring. Remarkable to see how Walter, now Gunther, obviously has become one of WWE's biggest stars. I mean, as a talent who's going to work with him, what do you think's the secret to that success?
I just think he is very unique. You just look at him and he has a presence. And now he has got himself in fantastic shape. I remember when I worked him at Takeover, it was a bit heavier, but he still suited that. He suited that as a villain, as a bully. It was very different.
He's still imposing, isn't he? Just in a different way.
Yeah. Very, very imposing figure on television. But again, it's great to see, and also because he's in that position, I don't know, but I felt as if sometimes he was maybe more uncomfortable talking. But he's got a great personality in that ring, especially with some of the stuff as you've seen with Goldberg recently. And I remember there was an in-ring segment where he was with Bret Hart, and you knew the Goldberg line was coming. I thought it was hysterical. So
I did too. Yeah.
Again, I'm never. I always want to see people do well. And, for example, Gunther has came through the same route, has worked his arse off, been all over the world, like myself, all over Europe, America, Japan. So just to see that come to fruition, it's great to see.
Yeah, and that is the fundamental difference between, wrestling today versus wrestling when you and I grew up, obviously, watching it in the late 80s, early 90s. With the exception of Davey Boy Smith and the Dynamite Kid and a very small handful of Brit representation, it was very much a US organization. Whereas, now it is such an international company, isn't it? And there are so many different routes. And as you say, you don't have to take the usual route. And, the case of Gunther, obviously the case of Drew McIntyre, your old trainer, Finn Balor, there's so many guys that have kind of gone very different routes into and out of WWE. Before ultimately achieving main event status. So as you rightly said at the start, just because this door has closed for you temporarily, it does not have to dictate where you're going, does it?
Yeah, even when I first started, I didn't think pro wrestling existed in Scotland. I was shocked when I found out there was a training school 20 minutes away from myself. I was going through I wouldn't say a midlife crisis because I was 21 at the time, but it was just I don't really know what I want to do with life. And I was finishing university at the time. I was playing high-level club rugby in Scotland. And I had started training in the summer. Basically, with long story short, Jackie Polo is he's been one of my best friends since I was 5 years old. So I've known him a long, long time. And in the summer, we were just watching wrestling. He went, "I'm going to find a training school." And I was like, "No, you're not."
Title Run Toys Series 1. Dangerous Danny Davis. Wrath. Juventud Guerrera. Ernest the Cat Miller. And Mr. Wonderful Paul Orndorff. Coming to the ring soon.
He found one that was 20 minutes away, and we were both kind of shocked. I'm like, "We've got to do this." So we went, started training. Ridiculous scenario. On our first day of training, we got booked on a show, which is just should never happen. Wow. Never happen. And then we were kind of all in from then. And then it came towards the end of the summer, and I had to go back to rugby for pre-season. And I wasn't really enjoying it at the time. Because my head had already been turned by wrestling, and I've been a fan since I was 4 years old. I was like, I think it's time to give this a crack. And then I remember it was the December, and Big Demo, who was the head of the training school at that time, who initially broke me in, he texted me, and so did Jackie, going, Fergal Devitt, Finn Balor, and Johnny Moss are doing a training weekend. I think it was just the weekend before Christmas, and I went, "I'm in." And I had to call my coach up at rugby, and I went, "Look, I'm probably not going to finish the season out. Is there any way we can come to some agreement? And he was like, yeah, sure. Because I was sitting on the bench, and I'm not a bench player. I was younger at the time in my position. A lot of people were older and experienced because you needed to be. And I was just like, I'm going to go be a pro wrestler. And there was a moment's silence, and he went, pro wrestler? And he went, just kind of chuckled and went, well, good luck with that. And I was like, no problem. And that was fine. And from that moment on, I was all in. So there wasn't this clear pathway to WWE like there kind of is now with the NIL, athlete recruitment, and then being an independent. NXT UK started up, and there became like a way to actually get to WWE. So it was just like watching it as a kid growing up. You're just like, oh, love to do that. Like whenever myself and Mark would recreate scenarios, I don't know how many beds were broken because of Razor's Edges, and walls were caved in because we were just suplexing each other or whatever. So it's now that there's a kind of pathway, then it's good for everyone and good for business.
It's funny because I think all fans of our era kind of fall into one of two camps. You either want to be a wrestler or you want to work in wrestling. So like I never ever aspired to be a wrestler, but from the age of like 6, I wanted to write for WWF magazine. So like I could never see myself in the ring, but I could see myself at ringside, either taking the photos or with a notepad. And we all end up finding our way into the world of wrestling eventually, because it is this intoxicating world, isn't it? But once you're in it, you're in it for life. Yeah,
and that's the thing. Like, it's such a nostalgic thing. Like, I used to love the magazines, like the WWF magazine and the Raw magazine, and then like in the 90s, you would occasionally see a WCW magazine as well.
Yeah,
I think a lot of that's missing. It's just we live in an age of content, and everything's available on a phone, which is a good thing and a bad thing. I just think things like that were so nostalgic that I feel as if a generation has missed out on these type of things. Like,
I'd love to get your thoughts on that a bit more, actually, because I think it's fundamentally a bad thing. I think you have to work so hard now to avoid a spoiler. It's not basically if a wrestling show of any kind airs, you have to be on a social media blackout, don't you, until you've watched it on TV, especially without kind of UK time difference and stuff. So like I basically have to just avoid social media until I can watch wrestling. Yeah. But I mean, personally, I merely miss the days of, it's a bit like that analogy of kind of has Spotify improved music or not? Like I used to enjoy the album because the album was layered and the album built up to something. Whereas now it's like just go straight into the main event, go straight into this last 30 seconds out of context of a main event. I think it's kind of hurting storytelling in wrestling. I think that kind of layered show, everything that builds up to a match, the psychology of a match and sticking with it, as you say, like the Pete Dunne match, like 30-40 minutes, or watch the last 30 seconds. I feel like we're losing that patience to just really, be absorbed by wrestling into all the drama.
Yeah, I think that's just the way life is just now. Like me and one of my friends, Sweeney, back home, we talk about it all the time. Born in the wrong era, born in the wrong generation. We live in the age of instant gratification, and I'm not the biggest fan of that. Especially when you take a pro wrestling aspect, you had to be your character all the time. And I kind of miss those days where you could be your character. And I don't put a lot of personal stuff on social media just because I want a clear separation. I like my own life in pro wrestling and I like my private life away from that. And it feels like in the age of content, you have to show a bit more of who you actually are, which again has positives and negatives, but I just kind of miss that where you could just remain in character and be that way. Like I look at MJF and AEW, like I love that he can keep his character the whole time.
Yeah.
And people pay to see that. They don't want to see who he was, outside the ring. He is his character and that's that. But even like avoiding spoilers and stuff. Like, we live in the age of the internet and everything's done on a computer or on your phone. So to avoid a spoiler, you're going to have to work really hard. And it's like people say, oh, we'll just stay off the internet. Well, for example, you're podcasting, so your job might entitle, you know, I need to be on social media or the internet. So it's going to be hard to avoid a spoiler.
Yeah, it is. And I, you know, on the days of PLEs, you know, if I know I'm going to be covering it for a channel, I just know I have to be on a complete blackout until I've managed to watch it, which with family life isn't always the easiest thing to do. I can't just start watching a show at 6 a.m. It might be that night when I start watching it. But yeah, as you say, maybe it's the era we're in. I want to go back to kind of NXT UK, because obviously you experienced both NXT UK and then you got to experience NXT. You know, I've had a few guests on the show, guys who, you know, were lucky enough to be part of that NXT UK, and everyone seems to share this same sentiment that it really was something special, but that unfortunately the pandemic killed its chances of, you know, really getting out of the starting blocks in front of live audiences. How was NXT UK for you?
One of the best times of my career, 100%. This is really strange, but I actually enjoyed it post-lockdown even more. Simply for the fact was we would all be in the same building. So WWE put us up in Canary Wharf in these apartments. So we all had a separate apartment just because of restrictions, which, you know, I've shared hotel rooms, I've slept in cars, I've slept in, you know, 6 of us in a hotel, and I've, you know, you're taking the floor. So like that was a luxury. Yeah. And it was, they treated us very well during that period, but it was also good because everyone was together. And everyone goes off in their little groups, and that's fine. Like, that's just natural. But I felt as if the whole roster was together, especially post lockdown. I felt as if it was the most team environment that we were all working together, and we all worked together for the card and for the show. And I'll put my hat on that during the COVID era, from, you know, just when we came back in 2020 to 2022, pardon me, NXT UK put on the best in-ring professional wrestling on the planet. I've got no problems in saying that, especially after coming back from lockdown, because we realised we're going to be with no crowd. So we had to create this style that was a lot more physical, a lot more fast-paced, and a lot more realistic. Yeah. And I think it made every one of us a better professional wrestler. And I've got to credit Johnny Moss and James Mason, because they took the reins of the coaching, because it was a skeleton crew, because the people from the US couldn't come over. And we just kind of like scaled back, and we looked at what British professional wrestling was, you know, in the World of Sport days. We would sit in and do Zoom sessions with John and James, and William Regal would be taking some, and Robbie Brookside, and we'd be assigned different matches to watch, and we'd break them down. And then I think we start to see more UK and European style wrestling in that era, and it was just fantastic. But I loved it, because I think we would always travel. It'd be me, Mark, Noam Dar, and Kenny Williams, and we'd be travelling down. We'd drive down from Glasgow, so it's a 9-hour drive, and it was like literally, can't wait to get down. It's going to be great. We'd do 2 weeks training. You would have 6 episodes roughly of TV to do at the end of that, and then, you know, we'd always have like a drink after it, and it was just a buzz. Like, and then you would do that. It was, don't get me wrong, it was intensive. It was hard graft. And then once the TV tapings were finished, the next day on the Friday, we'd travel back up the road, and everyone would be excited to get home. Yeah. And then Sunday would hit, and then you're like, it's 5 weeks till we go back down. Just get me back down there. And it was the best times, you know. It was good, and we had a really good crew and a good group. So it was always a buzz, and it was always fun to go do it. And, you know, I was very thankful for my time in NXT UK as well. It was just the best times.
Yeah, and as a fan, I loved it. I mean, what was the vibe backstage when NXT UK ended? Like, were you shocked, or did you see it coming?
Well, it was kind of hard, because we myself, Mark and Wolfie, and a few others had been brought over to the US for Worlds Collide, which there was the pay-per-view of NXT UK versus NXT. And we had got asked pretty much as soon as we got there, would you guys like to move over? I'm like, absolutely. Like, I didn't get in this job to sit at home for 5 weeks, or I get in it to be doing it every week. I would be in a ring every night, twice on Sunday if I could. So we were actually, yep, that's not a problem. We're more than happy to do that. We'd love to, thank you. And then I think it was the next day. I'm trying to remember the timeline, but I think it was the next day. There was a meeting online on Zoom because half the roster were in the UK and some were in the US. And it sounded positive, we're just going to scale it back a little bit, basically pull the arrow back to fire it forward. We're going to rebrand as NXT Europe. That sounds great, sounds fantastic. And then once we got off the phone in our group chat, text comes in, I've just got my release. Another text comes in, I've got my release. And just you're just it's just frustrating because that roster was just, every single person was talented. Every person worked hard. And it's rotten to see. You can't, and now I'm in that position, I know what it feels like. But I remember that day I was actually really heartbroken and disappointed for everyone else because you get that survivor's guilt. And I'm like, I remember I was to go in the PC that day and with a class, and I just said, I'm not coming in today because a lot of my friends have lost their job, and I totally understand that. And it was sad to see the end of NXT UK. It really was something special, and it was just really unfortunate circumstances because, as I said, lockdown and COVID probably had a hand in that. And it was a shame because when we come back and then towards the middle of 2022, when just before that happened, we started to get crowds in BT Sports. They were starting to allow us 200 to 300 people, and it was really good. I was just thinking, it's an opportunity missed.
And especially you think where the company is now, obviously you never know of a crystal ball where they're going, but you look at, where the company is now, like in the Netflix deal, can you just imagine a UK or Europe wide brand on Netflix now and the exposure and how incredible that would be. It's such a missed opportunity, but again, you never know where things are going. It's been talked about enough NXT Europe over the years. It feels like it's never fully been parked, that idea. So maybe it is something for the future. Who knows?
Yeah, I think it's maybe just waiting for the right time. WWE like to cement their flag in a lot of things, and essentially that is why NXT UK happened, because probably the years of 2016 to 2018, WWE, British wrestling as a whole and European wrestling had this massive boom period and resurgence. Speaking from a personal standpoint, standing in the ring against Kurt Angle in the Glasgow Hydro, close to 7,000 people in a building, that doesn't happen for independent wrestling. And I think we, a group of us, forced them to go, what's going on over here? We want a piece of that. How do we get in on this? Because that was a really, at the time, I don't take it for granted, but you're always, being in this industry, you're thinking, what's the next thing? And then looking back and reflecting on that, you go, that was some feat and some achievement for, I can only speak for ICW, and I did work for Progress as well from time to time, and never got the chance to work for Rev Pro. I would love to. And then you look at WXW in Germany and OTT in Ireland. They were just putting on these amazing shows that was just packed full of talent. So how could they not recognise that?
Yeah, it's crazy times and an incredible time to be watching wrestling as well. I loved that period. Everything from NXT to NXT UK, the UK boom. It was just incredible and pretty surreal to see Progress kind of selling out Wembley, and just that time to be a fan was amazing.
Yeah, and you only have to look at the the current climate of pro wrestling, a lot of that European talent are now top stars.
Yeah.
Throughout the industry.
And what is your, because it feels to me like wrestling has changed quite a lot in the last couple of years. I don't know how much of that as well is because obviously there's AEW and so there is a direct competitor to the WWE, but between kind of the partnerships between WWE and TNA, and then we've seen AAA kind of coming into that fold, like it really feels like WWE is kind of growing at an unbelievable rate of knots. As someone who has followed WWE for 35 years, it's a bit like when you follow that band for a long time and then suddenly that band is selling out stadiums. And I know that's a crazy analogy because they've been the market leader in wrestling for 30 years, but wrestling has suddenly gone from, like, to use your example of like in rugby, like, oh, you want to be a pro wrestler, do you? To, oh yeah, of course, it's on Netflix. Like, wrestling has suddenly become so mainstream and so huge so fast. It's kind of crazy to wrap your head around, isn't it?
Yeah, again, I just think it is that age of content. You know, you have social media, Instagram, Twitter.
It's perfect viral content, TikTok, isn't it? That's the thing. Like it's a show which is built around moments, and for social media, it's gold, isn't it?
Yeah, but wrestling, I feel as if has always been mainstream. And I think people forget how much it's ingrained in modern culture. Mm-hmm. You only have to look at Twitter, for example. Like, there's like constant GIFs and clips that are just used totally out of context from wrestling. Yeah. Like that, one of the, like, just one that's just popped in my head, like The Rock when he says "Shut up, bitch," and you always see that GIF in something like that in Twitter. So it's always in that modern culture. But I think the Netflix thing, like, everyone has Netflix. More people will have Netflix than, you know, Sky Television or whatever it is. So I think it's available now to more of an audience. And WWE were always very good at, like, striking deals with different, like, I remember William Regal told us that, like, NXT UK had this massive market in the Philippines. So it must, you know what I mean? It's just like, it's, the world has become a lot smaller because of different, you know, television platforms. And even in the States, WWE is on so many channels. Like, the LFG is on AEW, NXT is on A&E, or CW, sorry. I can't remember what network Raw's on. SmackDown's on a different network, but they're all available on Netflix. You know, it's become so, like, it's not as hard to watch it. Like, I didn't have Sky growing up for a long time as a kid, and then got maybe a dodgy black box that that got Sky Television. And, you know, when I started watching this, and it was all the VHS cassettes, you know, and it would be a lot, like, it would be a birthday or a Christmas or something like that before you get a chance to get another one. So it's a lot different now. It's a lot easier to watch it and a lot more accessible.
Yeah.
I'm Mark Merrill, former WWE Intercontinental Wrestling Champion and 3-time WCW World Television Champion. I am thrilled to announce the release of my new book, Bad to Good. The inspiring story of a wrestling wild man chronicles the highs and lows of my life, both in and out of the wrestling ring. It's a powerful narrative of overcoming adversity and the importance of perseverance, no matter how tough the journey gets. Co-authored with my good friend and award-winning journalist, Ben Veal, this is a story I've long wanted to share, and I truly hope it inspires you. I hold nothing back in this book, revealing the untold truths of my extraordinary life, from my modest beginnings and my first boxing match to the struggles with addiction that almost consumed me, and my evolution into the charismatic Johnny B. Bad. This book offers an insider's perspective on the world of professional wrestling and my journey as a sports entertainer. You'll read about my pivotal negotiations with Vince McMahon that led to the first ever guaranteed contract in the WWF, and how that decision marked me within the locker room. I discuss the impact of my relationship with my then wife, Rena, known to fans as Sable, on my career. I also confront the darkest moments of my life, how I hit rock bottom and how that experience sparked my rebirth, leading me to become America's leading motivational school speaker, inspiring young people and transforming lives. Featuring forwards by my good friends Diamond Dallas Page and Lex Luger, along with contributions from Mick Foley, Eric Bischoff, Vince Russo, and others who shared this wild journey with me. Bad to Good is a story you don't want to miss. Head to Amazon.com or WrestlingLife.online now to pick up your copy.
Well, but before you go, I mean, you mentioned obviously that meme with The Rock. I think there's many memes and GIFs that kind of go around with The Rock. But I've kind of got to ask you about what happened in 2024, because I mean, obviously Gallus's name was all over the internet when ESPN broke that news that you guys have been training The Rock for his first WWE match in 8 years. That when he came back that night, that was actually the first time I'd ever seen a WrestleMania live. So I got to be there in Philadelphia for, you know, The Rock's big match.
Oh, excellent.
Which was incredible. How do you end up getting the gig to be The Rock's training partner for such a huge match?
Well, I remember my parents had just come over to visit us in Orlando, and I think they get in on the Sunday, and myself and Mark were in the gym on the Monday. We're getting a session in, and then we were going to go into the PC. And I don't think that was the lead up to Stand and Deliver, which would have been NXT's equivalent WrestleMania weekend pay-per-view, or PLE rather. And we weren't on it, so we're kind of disappointed because we'd pretty much been inconsistent with the PLEs, and you want to be on those shows.
Sure.
So we're just thinking, oh well, our parents are over, so maybe that works out a little bit. We can spend some more time with them, because obviously being out here, the only time we've really got to go home is really at Christmas, when you have like NXT will do like a double taping or a triple taping, so that the talent can have time off at Christmas, which I think's great. And I think the main roster,
which is great, because the main roster doesn't really get that as much, do they?
Yeah, you know, it is good, and especially being an international talent, being out here, you do miss home and miss family and miss friends. And at that time of year, I think Christmas is a lot different in the UK. I think it is very different to it is out here. I've always found Christmas quite a special time back home, so it's always good to go back home at that time and catch up. And it's the end of the year, so it's like reset, goal set for next year. But they had come over, and we were sitting in the gym, and I was literally buying Universal tickets for the Tuesday, I think, because we're like going to go to Universal with our parents. And I clicked, you know, buy tickets, so $600 worth of tickets. And then I get a text through, and I thought, oh, that'll be the confirmation. And it was Matt Bloom, who wrestled as A-Train and Albert and Giant Bernard, who we've got a really good relationship with. And he texts going, hey guys, pack your bags. You're going to Los Angeles to train The Rock. And I was just like, we both got it and looked at each other. But my initial reaction was, I've just spent $600 in Universal tickets. Just was like, and then we looked at each other and I went, nah, this has got to be some kind of rib. And then Wolfie messaged back in the group chat, are you ribbing us? Is this, you taking the piss? He's like, no, I'm serious. He's like, stay by your phones for like travel information. And me and Mark just looked at each other for a second going, what is going on here? Like, this is strange. Like, it was a really strange feeling. So then we got confirmation through from the WWE HR department. Hey guys, look, you'll be flying out to LA. You'll be staying downtown LA, Marriott or something like that. I'm like, wow, this is actually happening. And we waited by our phone, and it was about 4:00. We're like, we've not heard anything yet. Should we text them? We're like, yeah, we probably should. So we text going, we've not heard anything about our flights. And they're like, oh, really? You're supposed to be on the 4:10 flight? And we're like, all right, we've not heard anything. They're like, just head to the airport. We'll get you on the next flight to Los Angeles. So I think we flew out about 7:00. It was a great experience. You know, it was exciting. And once we get into LA, just went for some food, got a little gym session in, got an early night, and then the next day we got up early again in the gym, getting prepared, and we got a text saying, "Hey guys, today's training's cancelled. There's been a problem with one of the jets or whatever." I'm like, "Okay, no problem. Like, just be ready for the next few days because it's, this is just a small blip." So we got to go out of a day in LA, which was great. Like, I'm not the biggest fan of Los Angeles. It's a really big city, a lot of traffic, but it was cool to actually go experience it. Like, I'm a big film fan, like a total cinephile. I'll see everything. So we just went about and went to different places where, like, I remember we went down to Venice Beach, and that's where Lords of Dogtown was filmed, and American History X and White Men Can't Jump. So I was just taking pictures and stuff because it was a really cool experience. And sometimes when you're in a city, you don't get a chance to go do that type of thing because it's literally airport, hotel, gym, venue, airport, home. So it was refreshing and it was good to do. And then the next day, and the thing is, this training session didn't happen in a fancy building. Like, I thought it might have happened in the PC, but obviously The Rock has the busiest schedule that any person has ever had. So it was like when he could fit it in, I'd imagine. And it was in this small warehouse, and I'm pretty sure it was just off Compton in LA. So he pulls up at the building, and I'm like, this can't be the place. Like, this just doesn't feel right. We've waited for 10 minutes because we're a little bit early, and then Rock's security guy showed up and went, "Oh, hey, you the Gallus guys?" I'm like, yeah. And he's like, "Come on in." And it honestly felt like an Avengers meeting or something like that, like you were going to be initiated in the Avengers. But we got in, and then shortly after, Michael Hayes came and Bobby Roode, who were the producers for the match, and one of the trainers, Larry, I think as well, was there just to oversee, and Chad Patton, the referee. So we all get talking, and we'd seen Michael Hayes whenever we were up to do main event, and he's a character as well. And I think he'd kind of take a little bit of light. So he's like, "Oh, it's the Gallus guys," and known Bobby Roode for a while as well. So it was nice, to see familiar faces. And then Rock's truck pulls up, and he comes in, and he's a presence. You know what I mean? But the funny thing is, he arrived in the trunks, the cut-off boots, vest top. So he's obviously just got his stuff on, got ready in the house, and it's just more just thinking him driving through LA traffic, basically in character as The Rock, and just no one would recognise that. But yeah, it was good. Then we got to training, we were getting warmed up, and I just asked him, I was like, because I knew we'd be going through the match, but I was like, to warm up, what would you like to do? And he was like, it's up to you guys. So I was just like, let's get in and let's just roll about for a bit. And it was a surreal experience, like standing there, and he is standing the opposite, and I'm about to lock up with him. And those moments, you're like, what is going on here? And Wolfie said, like, well, we're running through some things for the match, and he had me in like a sharpshooter, and Wolfie said he just had this out-of-body experience just watching this, going, what is going on here? And it was good. And we played the part. So if I played the part of Seth Rollins, Mark was Cody, and Wolfie was Roman Reigns. And it was funny, like every so often, like Rock would be walking around, and Wolfie would just fling the one up, going, "You're doing well, cousin." Like, it was just we did, like, because we can't hide our personality. We want to have fun as well as be professional and make it a great experience. And then it was, we'd got done after the few days, and we really enjoyed it. And I will say this about The Rock: he is one of the most genuine people. Like, what you see in interviews, I feel, is him. Like, he's genuine. And even on the last day, the day before, he was like, "What time is your guys' flights?" And we're like, "Oh, it's 2:00. And he went, "I tell you what, let's bring training forward just so you've got plenty of time to make your flight," which is great, And then once we'd finished up, it was just thanked him for the experience, and we made our way back to Orlando. And when we get back in Orlando, the thing is, we were on a salary. We got paid on top of our salary for it, for our time, and there was a massive case of Terramana and the whole new range of the Project Rock Under Armour gear, which is like $3,500 worth, just waiting for us with a nice little message, like proper classy touch. You just can't say. I just can't say enough good things about the whole experience and how much of a pleasure it was. And then watching the match as well, like I was like, because we weren't on Stand and Deliver and we didn't get to go to that weekend, it was disappointing. But once we watched that match, it was, you got a little bit a buzz. Like we felt like producers watching it, like, oh, that's the spots.
And you could literally work out, it was like spot for spot, like you worked through that whole match to make sure it was solid and on point, the entire thing.
Yeah, pretty much. And, even like Bobby Roode wasn't shy and saying, look, guys, if you have anything to say or want to contribute anything, like, don't be shy. Like, ideas are ideas. And some of the things that we had maybe said, like, for The Rock had, like, kind of made its way into the match. So that was really fun to see. And, everyone in that match is a top tier, elite level professional. So we knew it was going to be great anyway, but it was just really fun to watch it being a part of the process of like the training.
And did you get any feedback in terms of why you three got the nod?
Well, during that weekend in the press conferences, I think Shawn Michaels got asked. I see the Gallus crew have been training The Rock, and he just basically said, these guys have a mature head on them. They've been doing it a while. They're very professional, always reliable. So I think we are always safe to work with.
Yeah.
Don't think can't say I've injured anyone in my career. Same for Mark, same for Wolfgang. And if anything, our whole time in NXT, I think that is what we're most proud of, is that we are true professionals of pro wrestling. And I think that is why initially we got chosen, because The Rock is a commodity and you need people in there who know what they're doing and are not going to do anything stupid and are not going to hurt him. And he is The Rock, so everyone's a fan. But once I step in the ring, the fan cap goes off and I'm Joe Coffey, the professional. So if I've got a job to do, it doesn't matter who it is. You know what I mean? That's who I'm there to work with. Like, again, I've been in the ring with The Rock, training with him. I've wet 20 minutes with Kurt Angle, who is a Hall of Famer, an Olympic gold medalist, multiple-time world champion. I've taken a super kick off of Shawn Michaels. When I'm in that ring, there's business to be done, and I don't really care who it is. That's the professional side of things. So, yeah, and it was cool to see when Shawn had said that in the press conference, because we were disappointed not being on that weekend, but that probably done more for us at that time than being on that show, because it made people realise, well, these guys must really know what they're doing to be in that situation. So, it was a feather in our cap.
Absolutely. And it speaks volumes, and it also speaks volumes for where you're heading, really, because obviously, as you say, in this business, you are such trusted hands, all three of you, but you've got such great pedigree. Obviously, you've got such a strong reputation. You've worked with everyone. So, it really is like the world is your oyster, really, when it comes to wrestling. So, you've been putting out a lot of stuff on socials recently. Obviously, you've been massively up in your gym game. You're clearly getting ready. What is your mindset right now? And what's your focus, and where do you want to be heading?
My mindset just now is just to go out and enjoy what I'm doing in pro wrestling just now, but I'm focused because I know I'm one of the best in the world that can do this, and there's not a lot of people that can do what I can do in the ring. And that just has come from all the experiences that I've had. Being in NXT, we led a lot of matches, held a lot of hands. So I now get to be in an environment where I'll be working with someone who has been doing it a good amount of time as well, so that I can put on what I can do and what I used to be able to do as well, because I felt as if I slightly get diluted a little bit. So I just want to get back to showing what I can do, and whatever company that is, and if it's independently, if it's still with a company in television in America, I'm all for it. If it's in Japan, I'm all for it. If it is on a small independent show, if it's a big independent show, I'm all for it. I want to go back to the way I was previously, but very different, more mature, more experienced, and basically travel around the world again and be the professional that I am.
I'm excited to see what's coming.
Thanks, Ben.
So where can my audience kind of keep up with you, Joe, on social media?
So on Instagram, I'm at Joe Coffey 88, and Twitter is at Joe_Coffey. TikTok I can't remember because I've just started using it, and then I've relaunched a YouTube channel which is Joe Coffey TV, which there'll be more content coming on. I've just been uploading everything that I've been doing on social media on the shorts just to still have eyes on me, so that there's availability there, and I'm on Cameo as well if anyone wants a birthday message or anything like that. So there's still lots of outlets, and if for booking it is joecoffey.wrestling@hotmail.com.
There you go. Well, that's the man himself, Joe Coffey. Thank you so much for joining me today. Absolute pleasure.
Thank you, Ben. I appreciate it.
And on the subject of appreciation, I would say a quick thank you at the end, Joe. So I have to say thank you to my producer, Jeff Easton from Tall Lake Productions. Thank you to the audience for checking us out today. Please follow us on the socials and give us a like and a share and all that good stuff. I'll be back soon. This is Ben Veal. My special guest has been Joe Coffey. This has been Wrestling Life, real talk from real talent. See you soon. Bye.